Hello, Mia.
Hi, Melanie.
How are you?
Good, and you?
I'm very well, thank you. I can hear you and now I can see you too. Awesome. Fantastic. And we're
Hello,
waiting
hello.
for Darren to join us. So Anna is having some audio challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And I might also at some point disappear because we're load shedding here today.
Of course, great.
So, and I have been told that Mercury is in retrograde. So whatever the reason, we're going to do what we can with what we have.
Okay, great. I'm also trying to see if my intern, who said he'd join me on this session, has signed up and is
Okay.
joining.
Okay.
I can send him the same link you send me, right?
Yes, it is one link and it should get everybody in. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sending it on to some other people. That's great.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Oh.
Mia, so that we can have some conversation going on for those who are going to watch this afterwards, what sort of business do you have?
I'm part of a makerspace in Braamfontein in Johannesburg. We're part of a
Okay.
digital innovation precinct, and we are the hardware part of that precinct. So we're a makerspace that focuses on digital fabrication and prototyping. So we're a bunch of entrepreneurs who tinker and make and come up with solutions and help other entrepreneurs develop solutions.
What an interesting space to be working in right now, and in Braamfontein.
Yes, yeah, the Tsimologong Digital Innovation Precinct is in Braamfontein, yeah.
Okay. I've got a love for Central Joburg. I'm a Joburg girl by birth, and
Yeah.
I kind of have as much as I love natural spaces, I love the grimy inner city. It's
Yep.
for me, it's got a magic of its own as well. It's alive.
Yeah. So I'm between Kensington and Braamfontein, so I'm in and out of the CBD all the time.
Okay, lovely. Now I see Darren has joined us. Darren, I can't see or hear you. Perhaps if you can turn your audio and your video on so we can say hello to you, then we can communicate a little bit as well. And Mia, so we're supposed to be talking about unpacking business bookkeeping. And I said to Anna that if she has tech challenges, then what I'll do is I'll just gather all of your questions. And then when we post the video afterwards, she can always just answer in the comments your specific questions. Yes.
Record and answer. Okay.
So that you guys can still get the value out of this that was promised. So what are your biggest bookkeeping challenges with the business?
I think as we are a non-profit company.
Okay.
So we're having to up our game in terms of, let me say my background as a creative freelancer, the way I used to run my freelancing service, and now running a non-profit company. Obviously, we need to up our game in terms of our bookkeeping and our reporting and our financial reporting. So I guess it's understanding how to do one's small business bookkeeping in the least painful way. So where does a small business go?
Is there a least painful way?
Yeah, I don't know. Where does a small business go for its financials when you have to do your annual financials? Are we bound to go to an accounting firm and pay that fee? Oh goodness! Now someone also wants to try and phone me. Sorry. Or is there a way that we can learn to do so ourselves? Are we obliged by law to have it done and signed off? I mean, it's all the things that I'm busy finding out and learning as the business is growing. But what's the simplest way to be compliant and to be on top of your financials without going completely overboard and without dropping the ball?
Okay, so just one or two questions. Is your non-profit registered as an NPO?
Yes, NPC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And have you tried a package like Wave or one of those?
Yes, we do our bookkeeping through Wave Accounting.
Okay,
So we're finding that very useful and very user friendly.
okay,
But yeah, I guess it gets now to, we've just done our first year cycle of being registered. So I guess now it's the compliance part of things. So how do we
okay,
do
okay.
signed off financials to stay compliant with SARS and CIPC and all of these things. Whereas
Yes,
before, I always did all these things myself, and I can
yes,
do so, but it gets to a point where it's not prudent to do it like that anymore, or do it
yes,
by myself anymore.
yes.
Aha, my intern is online.
Oh,
Johnny,
fantastic. Yay. Okay. And Anna's still trying to join us. She's having connectivity issues her side. So I'm just going to wing it and run it on my own.
cool. Okay.
With my limited knowledge.
Look, I mean, with what you've been running for so many years, you've obviously had to learn a lot and do a lot. So I'm sure you know enough.
Well, the other thing is, so being a creative, the bookkeeping is actually my biggest nightmare. It's the part of the
Mm,
business that I really struggle with the most. Um,
I
and
hear you.
I'm guilty of hiding. So sometimes it gets quite messy with me, and I can say that in all honesty. Like, I'm great at marketing, I'm great at getting out there and selling to people, but as soon as I have to look at a piece of paper, it becomes white noise to me. And my bookkeepers hate me. My bookkeepers hate me because they can't get anything out of me on time. But
Look,
having said that, I've also had a very, very bad history with bookkeepers, which is another reason I'm at the moment leaning into my fears and actually doing this stuff on this Q&A group, is because
that freaks you out.
I'm almost forcing myself to now lean into the stuff that terrifies me.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, it's necessary to not. The thing is, you can't hide behind excuses for
forever.
oh, I'm a creative, I don't know these things. If you run a business, and also for me being responsible for this business, I can't hide. It's not a responsible way to keep doing things. And luckily, being a control freak, I also want to be. I want to know.
Yes,
I want to
yes,
know what's going on.
yes. And
And that's
do you find it easier to be accountable now that you've got other people to be accountable for than when you were, for example, just self-employed on your own?
Yes, it really does help, I must say. It's the one thing that I'm most afraid of, to be responsible for others. And the same thing that really energizes me and helps me remember to stay on track, or gets me to stay on track with being compliant and doing the right thing, because I'm responsible for others.
Yes,
So that's a double-edged sword. And that's why I
yes.
also said to Lechlo Nolo, our admin and finance intern, who's now on the call as well. I see he
Okay.
hasn't put his video on, but yeah, so
Hello.
him and I are, we're learning together. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So I also understand that when employing bookkeepers, there is a bit of a challenge because you get bookkeepers and you get accountants, and not
Mm,
all bookkeepers can sign off on things.
correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Ah, yeah.
there we go. We can see you too. Hello. Thank you for joining us. And we can't hear you. Okay, it looks like Anna's going to try come back in again. Okay, and as I say, we're going to try. So if there's any specific questions you can think about, and Darren, your sound is off, but if there are any specific questions that are coming up for you, if you'll put your audio on and just ask them, then what we'll
Okay,
do.
I can hear you now.
Hello, Anna. We can hear you too, but we can't
Hi.
see you.
I am so sorry.
No, don't panic. Don't panic. Thank you for showing up for us. You're the lady who knows.
I hope I know. Otherwise, I'm going to try and help everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Mia has asked us the question. She runs a non-profit, an NPC, a registered NPC, and she would like to know what your recommendation is for what is the simplest way to be compliant for an NPC when it comes to bookkeeping?
I'm not so clued up on it, I'll be very honest, but basically bookkeeping, you need to apply all the same rules that you would apply across, any business that you're conducting. You need to keep a record of all your income, you need to keep a very good record of all your expenses, bank statements, and obviously being a non-profitable organization, you're going to be more under scrutiny than any other business. My recommendation is to follow any normal bookkeeping system, and most of the accounting packages you can set up for that, so they give you what you actually want. But I can actually check on it and then, sort of come back to you afterwards, Mia, for any more questions you want.
Thanks, Anna. It's like Melanie was asking earlier, and it's Tony, who's also on the call, is our admin and finance intern at the Makerspace. So we're learning Wave together. We're putting all our bookkeeping on the Wave accounting system, and at least we can do our income sheets from there. We can check our expenses. We can draw a statement of accounts. So that's really helpful, whereas we did everything manually for the first year. I think I'm getting there. I was just wondering in terms of, I haven't yet, because we've been doing our bookkeeping ourselves.
Yes.
We haven't actually sent in a set of financials to get audited or signed off. And I believe after a year cycle of being registered, that's going to become.
You have to, and that will have to be by an auditor or accountant who can sign it off. But they are going to require the same information that they would from me or from Melanie for you to do. There's just different, when they do your financials, there's just the actual financials, there will just be different guidelines that will apply to you. But to get you to the position where you need to do financials, you need to, just keep a record of all your income and money that's come in, especially the donations, where they've come from, and, any money you have given out.
Thanks.
Okay, so basically, Anna, if I hear you correctly, you have to just keep very, very thorough records of everything that you do, and then you need to find a bookkeeper who has the authority to sign off and to SARS.
Bookkeepers aren't allowed to sign off.
Okay.
Only registered accountants who have been qualified and they've been authorized to do it with certain degrees or diplomas. Otherwise, you'd need to go to an accounting company that's registered with SARS or SARCA, or a qualified auditor who's a CA that can actually sign off financials. But a bookkeeper is not allowed to sign off financials.
Okay, so perhaps it would be helpful for people watching, Anna, if you could tell us the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant.
A bookkeeper, we take your books up to, depending on your qualifications and your experience, we can take your books right up to balance sheet. And from there, it's got to go to an accountant or an auditor to verify what I have done. And then they will, if they are qualified enough to, they can then actually do your financials for you. But a bookkeeper basically just keeps a record of your books and takes them up to a level where you actually give them to your accountant or your auditor that can actually sign them off.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, a bookkeeper is the person who will take your box of papers and make sense of it, and then the accountant is the person who signs off on the reports that the bookkeeper has created.
What we do is we take your information and we put it into, I use personal accounting, and then I will submit it to my accountant. And he will have, obviously, somebody, in the office who will verify what I've done, and they will go through it. And there are different ways, 3 different levels of auditing that they do. And that depends on the number of people working for you and actually the sales. If you're earning like R1 million a year, then you've got to go for almost like a full audit. For somebody whose only turnaround is like 50 or 60 or 100,000 a year, it's a very minimum auditing that they actually do.
Okay, that's useful information. So what are kind of those threshold points in earnings where things become more serious?
I'll have to go to my notes. My daughter keeps on telling me every time, because she's auditing clerk, what they are, and then my brain just can't comprehend it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I can just switch on my computer, and I will give you the 3 different levels that they actually give you.
I think that will be useful. Thank you. Now, while you're looking for that information for us, do either of the guys have questions for us? No. Okay. It's okay, Darren. Hello, nice to see you.
Hi. I'm just waiting for my computer. You've got the 3 different levels of auditing reports is your compilation report, your independent review, and a full audit. The compilation report is where they've not audited or reviewed the financials, and the auditors won't express any assurance that the information you've given them is 100% correct. And that depends on, like I would at my level, if my books are like 200,000, they would do compilation reports. An independent review is where they actually do a fair amount of a review, almost like a half an audit on it, based on the information you've given them. And that will be based on the number of people working for you and your actual revenue for the year. And then you've got your independent review, which is a full audit, which they do, conduct a proper audit. And then they will sign off and express their opinions on it.
Okay, so as your income goes up, your levels of accountability increase, essentially.
Your accountability is this. Just the auditors won't say, I've checked this and I'm 100% correct and I'm happy with it. They'll just take your figures and do your financials. But at the end of the day, the bank, if you need to get a bank loan or to get, go to the bank and they ask you for your financials, you need to actually ask them what type of bank financials do they want. And they will then tell you they want a compilation, they'll be happy with the compilation financials, or they want the independent review. And then that is what the auditors will have to give you. Obviously, the compilation report is a lot cheaper than what a independent review report is. And then obviously an audit is like, when you go to big manufacturing companies or like Edgar's or something, then they would have to have a proper audit to be done. Where they actually come and take your files and, verify what you have done.
So Anna, if somebody has a small business, do you recommend that they use a bookkeeper rather than trying to capture their information themselves?
Yes, I would. There are certain things that you need to adhere to. I have found that, SARS is really tightening up now, and especially now that we're in this pandemic stage. They've got certain rules with the setups of information that you actually need on your invoices.
Yes.
What you can claim for, what you can't claim for, when do you register for VAT, what you can claim for VAT and what you can't claim for VAT. So unless you actually have a bit of knowledge, then I would say, capture it yourself and then sort of just get somebody in just to come and do a review once a month just to make sure you're doing everything right. Otherwise, what happens is that the auditors take it. They fix your mistake. They do not tell you what you have done wrong. And this is a fight I've had always with auditors. That if I've done something wrong, please tell me so I don't do it again. But they don't. So they'll just fix it and they charge you for it. You know, depending on the size of the auditing firm or accounting firm, they'll have a junior to do the bit of the donkey work, and then it goes to the next level. And they check the junior, and then you've got the auditor actually signs off. And you are paying for all three of them.
Yes.
And the junior would be billed out at probably like 200 or 300 rand an hour. The next level is probably like 600 or 700 rand an hour. And the auditor that signs it off is probably like 1,500 and 2,000 rand an hour to look at and review your work.
Yes.
So my aim is always to make sure that when your books get to the auditors, there is no query. That, you know, all the problems have been sorted out before then, so they do charge you the minimal charge.
Okay. Okay, that's very useful
my
information.
It's always just to, before it goes to the auditors or accountants to be signed off for somebody, just to make sure, check your general ledger postings, because if they take your general ledger and they check and you post it to the wrong account, then they go and fix it and they actually charge you for it because they're charging you by the hour.
Okay. That's very useful information. That's also explaining why sometimes my bookkeepers and accounting services have cost me so much money.
No, they do. They can, you know, they can actually, it can add up. That is why I always try and, you know, limit, you know, when I give your financials to the auditors, I'm always like 99% sure there aren't any mistakes. There are obviously some journal entries they have to do on their side. For SARS recommendations, because on depreciation, we've got on the accounting side, we've got a set of rules that we adhere to for depreciating your fixed assets. When it comes to SARS, they look at it differently. So the auditors, depending on the size of your business, they will actually fix the auditing and the depreciation when they do your actual tax return. So that makes a big difference on what you're paying out. So it's a complicated thing. So to me, a bookkeeper, even if you're going once a month just to review it, would be really essential. Even if you have somebody, you know, just posting everything, just to run an eye over what you've done and make sure you've done it correctly.
Yes. Okay, so you would really recommend that there is a bookkeeper in place as well as an accountant?
Depending on the size of your business, I would go for a bookkeeper, and then, you know, obviously every business needs to have an auditor or accountant to sign off your financials. And as a bookkeeper, I try and liaise with the client's auditors. So when I'm doing something and I'm not sure, then phone them, and, you know, because the phone call doesn't cost you anything except a couple of cents to make the phone call, and you can fix it before it gets to them.
Yes, yes.
So I like to work with my clients' auditors. If they don't have one, then I use my accountants who are based in Kempton Park,
Okay.
you know, to answer the questions.
Okay.
And my youngest daughter, she is an auditing clerk, and, you know, she is my go-to person if I want to know something, if I'm not sure.
Okay. And do most bookkeepers work in combination with an accountant or an auditor?
They should.
Okay. Okay.
They should.
Okay.
You should actually, it's one of the questions you should ask, you know, do they work, you know, do they have accountants they could go to if they don't know, you know, you never know everything.
Yes.
And I mean, the tax laws keep on changing, how we do things keep on changing. So if you don't stay on top of it, then you actually need to be in touch with somebody who is a bit more knowledgeable than what you are.
Yes, yes. That's great advice. Now, Anna, I know I've spoken about this before, but it might be useful to speak about it again. For the people watching, how do you find a good bookkeeper? What would you look out for? What questions would you ask of a new bookkeeper if you're thinking about using their services?
One I would use is, you know, what accounting package they do, you know, ask them questions where you've had problems with your bookkeeper before. Ask them how they would resolve questions. If you've got issues, ask them how they would resolve it. and just see, what they say. And obviously your gut feeling will tell you they're telling you something that they're talking about, or they actually have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. But it's difficult to actually say, how do you know? I know somebody who works with another lady. They both have exactly the same qualifications, same age, same qualifications. And the one lady does not know how to do a journal.
Okay.
A journal is your method you use to correct any mistakes you make. And when I was doing one of my exams, 50% of my exam consisted of a journal of fixing mistakes.
Okay.
And, so, not everybody knows, how to do things. So I would just ask them questions on, if you're prepared to if I dump my box on you, would you prepare to look at it?
Yes.
It is a very difficult question to ask, how to find a good bookkeeper.
Yes.
My general gut feeling is just talk to them, and, if they don't make sense of whatever question they ask you,
Yes.
I wouldn't deal with them.
Okay.
And they've got to, and if they don't, I think one of the poor things is people said they treat them like idiots.
Yes.
If they treat you like an idiot, then walk away, because they need to make you understand what you're doing.
Yes.
Or what you want from them, because if you don't understand what I want from you, how are you going to know what to give me?
Yes. Yes. Now that actually,
and why, and I try and explain to my clients why they need to give me something, because you might not understand why, but if you have a reasonable idea of why I need something, then you're going to comply and you're going to be helpful and give me what I actually need.
Yes. So this leads into a question.
I'm making sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this actually leads into a question that I have. At the moment, I'm paying an accounting firm quite a large amount of money. But this week, the guy came back to me, and he's clearly making assumptions about my lifestyle, that he has no idea what my personal needs are. He's just assuming stuff about the data that I'm giving him. And my gut feeling is telling me that that's quite dangerous. What are your feelings on this?
Firstly, your personal life has got absolutely nothing to do with him.
Yes.
He's looking at your business books,
Yes.
what you have got in your personal lifestyle, and how you spend your money. To me, it's got absolutely nothing to do with anybody.
Okay.
Unless they are actually doing your personal tax return.
So maybe
need to know.
Maybe I should explain further. He made assumptions about how my medical aid is set up, without interrogating further to find out exactly how it is set up. He was just like, oh, it must be done this way.
Medical aid or medical aid. So I don't understand why I would ask you how your medical aid is set up. You've got your levels on your medical aid, you've got your dependents, and that is it.
Well, he made the assumption that I was on my boyfriend's medical aid, which I'm not. But what worried me was that he didn't ask the question to be clear.
No, well then you should, if you're doing your tax return, he should ask you for your medical aid certificates, and if you're doing your tax return, you would see on your tax return that you are on your own medical aid, you're not on your boyfriend.
Yes.
Because I'm on my husband's medical aid, so it's not going to come through on my tax returns or anywhere that I'm on a medical aid.
Yes.
Because the medical aids have to, submit their forms to SARS, and they put everything together, and they will see.
Okay.
He's got to also, anybody who makes assumptions about you or your, anything.
Yes.
I had an auditor that once tells me, said to me, Mrs. Van Dyke always said to me, you know what assume means? So I said, no. She said to me, it means we make an ass out of you and me.
Yes, absolutely.
So anybody who makes an assumption is making a fool out of themselves.
Yes.
Unless,
Yes.
that you ask the question, and if you're not happy with the answer, you keep on asking the question until you get it right.
Okay, okay. So I noticed that we're running out of time. Thank you to all of you who showed up today. I really appreciate this. Mia, were we able to answer some of your questions?
Yes, that was actually quite helpful. Thank you. The levels of auditing is not even something I thought of before, but Anna, thank you so much. That's actually quite useful to understand. And then just also to check then as the business grows in terms of how many people and what we're earning, how does that change the levels of regulation and or compliance that we need to,
because I've always been in the manufacturing industry or, people, retail or whatever. And you're slightly different. So if you've got a good accountant, if you're not sure, always just keep on checking with them what the rules and regulations are that are actually applied to you. But basically, the basic bookkeeping will apply all over to anybody. So you need to be accountable of the money that is coming in, whether it's your own personal, for your business, or for somebody else. You need to be accountable. But there are certain rules that will apply to you, which won't apply to a Melanie. So just make sure you've got a good accountant and ask questions. And if they don't answer your question the way you want it, even if they treat you like an idiot, they're idiots, because you need to actually understand what they want from you and why they want it. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense to you. And if they don't make sense and they don't want to do that, then go find yourself another bookkeeper or accountant. That's all I can say. Somebody who's willing to explain to you until the penny actually drops.
Thanks. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks so much.
Okay, so we are almost out of time. Thank you so much to all of you who showed up. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Honolo. And thank you, Anna. It's a beautiful name. It's a beautiful name. It's almost like a melody. It's almost like a melody. And Anna, thank you so much for showing up and for answering our questions. I appreciate it so much.
I'm sorry it was a bit of a delay on my side, but
no,
first time I've used Zoom, so it was a bit of a hiccup on my side, but
it's all great. It's all great. You showed up for us, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you to all of you. I hope that was useful to you, and have a lovely day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Bye,
and
Darren.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.